before we get on to the new manager, we should still, Mike, cover the departure of Javi Gracia. From a Watford fan perspective and from what you're hearing, did it come as a surprise?
It didn't come as a surprise, no. The run of form has been very poor. The start of the season's been dreadful. But also you have to look at it in the context of last year as well. I think the FA Cup final appearance masked a lot of inadequacies, really, with Watford's performances. They really were very poor. So looking at it in the bigger picture, no great surprise at all.
What about the fans? How did the fans feel about it?
There's a huge amount of goodwill towards Javi. He did such a good job for Watford. He turned it around really well. People forget he came in. Watford were in a tough state after Marco Silva left, so confidence on the floor. So he had a big job to turn Watford around that season as well. And last year was brilliant. We were in with a shout of Europe right until the end there. We obviously had the FA Cup final. Less said about that, the better. But overall, it was a terrific season for Watford. So Watford fans really wanted him to do well. And yeah, that's the sadness that he's gone.
And the Pozzos did, I suppose, as well, because they gave him a contract extension.
Yeah, one of the
But I think that's where the surprise element comes in from people looking from the outside, is that the Pozzos almost kind of broke their own mould with Javi Gracia. They looked at him as someone who could take the job on longer term.
Absolutely. I think he was seen as a major success story and someone who could maybe build a cycle for 2 or 3 years there. And in the end, look, this decision I don't think comes as a surprise given who the owners are. They're trigger happy, but I think in a positive way, in that they're not going to allow a situation to drift. And maybe it had been allowed to drift too long, and as you were saying, FA Cup, getting to that final, they couldn't have intervened before that.
Drift is 4 games in. I mean, even for the Premier League stands, I'd have to say, I mean, they win 1, they're mid-table.
But the run of last season...
No, I get that, but it's a new season, you know. Look, I think it's harsh on Javi Gracia, I really do. I think he'll get another job in this country in the Premier League quick.
Well, he's been linked with Chelsea in the summer. When they knew that Maurizio Sarri was going to be moving on, before settling on Lampard, there was a real suggestion that Javi Gracia could be someone that could take that role. So it goes to show how quickly this game can change.
Yeah. What he did incredibly well at Watford as well, they got those boys playing. Some of them haven't been the most consistent performers under previous coaches. And let's take Etienne Capoue as an example. Yeah. Player of the season last year, and he's shown glimpses over his Watford career. But last year was the first year that he really turned in that consistent performance. And I think that was down to Javi Gracia. He can really get the best out of his players. So a superb coach, and I think you said trigger happy. I think the Pozzos are decisive. And you get a feel about a football team when you watch them regularly. And it's very flat at Vicarage Road at the moment. There's talent in that Watford squad. But it's flat. They don't show any signs of turning the corner.
And then Troy not playing, he's a major part of it as well, isn't he?
Massive miss. Massive miss. He doesn't let them get away with it. He's a huge presence in the dressing room. I'm assuming he's not there before the games. He's not doing his rabble rousing, his captain's call before the game. And I think that's another bad miss. We've been dealt a tough hand, Watford.
And you can see from the results, they weren't good this season. But like you said, it's gone on for longer than that. Over 16 games, like you said. It's a different season, but it would have been relegation form over those 16 games. But there was talk about sort of ill discipline in the dressing room and particularly on the training ground. You always get a little bit of that when a manager goes, that players are sort of feeling unsettled. You were there last season, though.
Yes.
You liked him around the training ground, didn't you?
No, I didn't get any of that. The manager was really nice. You know, he spoke to me for a long time, like 25 minutes. I know they were meant to be training and everything. And he was talking, actually, about the camaraderie and how it was going. And, you know what I mean, the injured players weren't even far away and they were involved in it still. And it seemed like a very, very happy place. They were very together. Everybody seemed to be pulling in the right direction. I don't know what happened to them towards the end of last season, but they just got into this... They couldn't seem to get out of it. I can't blame the Pozzos. The one thing I would have asked you is... I think that they're constantly looking for that manager to stay, but because they're so ruthless in what they do, if they find somebody they don't think can do, they'll just move him on, and they've got no problem with that. And I think, James, when you mentioned to me, 25 years, they've never had a team go down, never relegated? Yeah. They've been in for 5 years. They make those decisions, and they're the tough decisions. You know, so, and now they've got a manager now that they all know. You know, I quite admire him.
But what's the end game for Watford? I agree, I think they've done a brilliant job, but what is their scope? Where do they want to be? Do they want to be...
It's got to be staying in the Premier League, trying to get, for me, you could tell me differently, is staying in the league, obviously getting to the cup final, which was obviously, let's say, the better, and maybe trying to challenge for those European places. That's what, I don't know what more you can ask for a team like Watford. I think that's basically it, and staying in.
It's also about doing what they used to do at Udinese, which was finding these players for little or no money taking a chance on them, developing them, and then selling them on for big money,
Yeah.
like we saw with Richarlison, and we'll probably see with some of the other players.
That's the foundation of the model. That's what they want to do: bring players in, promote them, and get them moved on, and that will keep funding Watford. But to answer your question, Owen, what they want to do, I think it's incremental improvement. I think yes, bottom line, stay in the Premier League, of course, but they want to see year-on-year improvement. It doesn't have to be qualify for the Champions League and win a trophy. It's just that steady improvement, because I think what that does as a football club, it makes you more attractive for signings, so it makes that scouting a little bit more easier. It's less of a tough sell. If you finish 12th, then 10th, then 8th in the Premier League, you've had a cup run, you're challenging for Europe, then it's not as hard to persuade those players to come, and you can do that steady build. Watford, they're fairly pragmatic. I think the bottom line is to stay in the Premier League, but that incremental improvement is what they're looking for. And if it looks for a minute, I think you're right, Ian. If it looks like they're going backwards, they'll act.
But if you look at it recruitment-wise, they've got some pretty interesting players, haven't they? In Deulofeu and Pereira, they got from Juventus, I think, didn't they? Doucouré. They've got some really good players that they probably... Sarr, he's as quick as a Ferrari, isn't he? So they've got some really interesting players there. I just think if they would have stuck with it for even another month, they could have been 8th or 9th easily. Just feels harsh on Javi Garcia.
In terms of the fans, Mike, just to pick up on the point you were talking about what Watford fans expect, even if it is increment 12th, 10th, 8th, it's still that sort of mid-table safety with perhaps a good cup run in it. And we've seen so often that fans get frustrated with teams that sit in that place because it's so hard to break into, not even look at the top 4, into the top 6, into those European spots. Do you think that by changing the manager, it keeps it fresh? In a way.
Sort of. I think it's probably the excitement we could do without as football supporters. You want to be winning trophies or qualifying for Europe. So whether it's something that we enjoy as supporters, I wouldn't have said so. We're all looking for consistency. It'd be love to come back on the show in 5 years talking about how Quique Sanchez-Flores has done well for Watford. So I think what we want as supporters is that incremental improvement. We're pragmatic as Watford fans. We know kind of what the club is capable of. We're surrounded by Arsenal, all the London clubs, and then you've got Manchester United, Liverpool, City. Watford just cannot compete on a regular basis with those guys. So.
I like what they've done. Even with Jokanovic, they said they weren't too keen simply because of his defensive, and they were right. That was proven right. I think that when you look at, for me, Quique Sanchez-Flores, I liked him when he was first here, and that was a money issue at the start. Why he left. Matsari, I was very confused about. I don't know what was happening there. And then we
beat Arsenal at the end.
Exactly. And then the same thing. You look at Marco Silva, and that was all another, it was him and the Everton stuff, but. I thought Javi Gracia was very good, but now he's got to a point where they can't see him maybe getting out of it. For me, Owen, and I just have to say, the fact that they've gone for Quique Flores is they've gone to somebody they know. I like the ruthlessness of it. I really do. I think that for Watford, it's something that they have to do.
We hadn't kept a clean sheet since February as well, which is a pretty damning statistic, I think. And you're right, you say in a month's time we could have climbed up the league. There's two things to consider. One, we might not, and in which case we're 10 games into a season, scrabbling around for a new manager. And two, the run of fixtures we've got is incredibly difficult. Yeah.
But what is Watford as a team? Is it a defensive team? Is it a counter-attacking team? Is it a high-scoring team? What is actually the identity of, say, would Watford say is their style? Because I think at times they got lots of ball players. There's some talented players in there. But when you watch them consistently, you wouldn't say it jumps out at you that this is their style, but like say an Arsenal or Chelsea under Conte.
I think that's a fair question, and I think that probably indicates why we've struggled. We've lost our identity a little bit. I think the transition used to be where we were really successful. We'd get the ball, we'd break up play, either Doucouré or Capoue would get it forward, and Troy would do his thing up front. And I think we've just lost a little bit of that identity, and we're struggling. And you mentioned defensively. We're not a defensive team because we're struggling hugely. Yeah. We're conceding far too many goals, and I think that's exactly why they've gone back to Quique Sanchez-Flores.
You look at that as well. I thought that they would have tried to recruit better in the defensive department. Gone for Dawson from West Brom. He's
29.
Exactly. It's the kind of thing where you're thinking, well, that's not the kind of move. If I was a Watford fan, I'd be happy with. But when you look, you've got Will Hughes, you've got Pereira. Players who are very good in the offensive areas. And, Andre Gray, he can nick a goal. Troy, when he's playing. So, and now Sarr, he's coming. He looks like he's going to be something special. You look at the team, and with Doucouré and Capoue, Doucouré's got to get himself going again, albeit. But the fact is, the team looks to me like they could probably play both ways, Owen. Yeah. Once they get it going, they could go direct, Troy, or they can go through teams.
I think at times, when I watch them, I think they got too many ball players in there. Yeah? Capoue, terrific pass for the ball. Does he stop anyone out of possession? He's like 6'4". Doucouré, I love him, but again, he's like a box-to-box midfield player. Will Hughes, a terrific technician, but again, he's a ball player. Pereira, he's a ball player. So if you've got all these guys in your team, they're all ball players. When you're playing these better teams, that's why they often get picked off against some. I don't think the balance in midfield is solid enough. Maybe it needs somebody. I know Kante's hard to find, but something of that mould, that can defensively do a job. And that's why they're conceding a ton of goals, because maybe the balance, too many attacking players on the pitch, and they're conceding a ton.
That's a good point.
James, have they necessarily upgraded in going back to Quique Sanchez-Flores? Because his record at Watford isn't very different from Javi Gracia's.
Well, and also, since he left, he hasn't really enhanced his reputation all that much, because he's gone to Espanyol, he got the sack there, he went to China, Shanghai, it didn't work out for him. And you mentioned them maybe going a little bit stale and wanting to freshen things up. Well, he's not a fresh face. He is someone that they trust. He is someone that the Pozzos and Scott Duxbury know as well. But I think it's going to be quite curious, because he's come into the same environment. It's quite a different team to the one that he left.
Yeah, very, very different team, and I think that's.
There's only 3 players left.
I think there's a few more than that, but I just think the balance of the team, to go back to what Owen said in terms of how the team sees itself and how it's performing. Back when Quique came in initially, took over from Slavisa Jokanovic, his job was pretty clear: make Watford hard to beat, sort out that defence, and the attack will take care of itself. We had Troy Deeney and Odion Ighalo scoring goals for fun, which was terrific to watch as a supporter. But this time round, as we've just discussed, they're finding it hard to work out the best way of playing. So Quique will be brought in to deliver the defensive side of things, but he's also got to deal with how they perform in the final third as well, because they have been doing really well. They've had lots of ball in dangerous areas, largely due to the personnel we've got. We're beating defenders, we're getting into dangerous positions. Final balls, a little bit of luck perhaps, and a little bit of confidence hasn't really been there. So there's a big job on for Quique Sanchez-Flores, but list 1 on his agenda will be sort defence with a big red ring round it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that when he left, he said, I didn't want to stay somewhere where I understood that things were not going to be done in a way that I liked. There's no sign of the Pozzos changing the way that they're going to operate for a manager, is there?
No, and I think if this doesn't work, they won't hesitate in intervening again. Udinese last year, they went through 3 managers. Their bottom line was to get to the end of the season and still be in the division. And they've stayed up for 25 years.
Yes.
And there are some football clubs where the player is the most important person at the club. The manager is the most important person at the club. At Watford, the most important people at the club are the Pozzos. And this is their business. They don't have any other kind of outside interest. Football is their bottom line. And they've proved very good, astute, at making teams competitive and keeping them in these divisions.
Maybe they've given him, I don't know, maybe they've given him kind of assurances that he didn't have the last time, because when he left the last time, we were all a bit surprised because we thought that they were doing okay. So maybe they've given him the kind of assurances. Now, I'm not sure. You'd have to tell me that why he's come back, because for people who are so ruthless in the way they go about their business, why would you go back to somebody that you already know?
Yeah,
like that?
They've both moved on, I think. Watford have moved on. The Pozzos have now got more experience in the Premier League. They know what it takes for us to get that incremental improvement that we want. And Quique Sanchez-Flores has gone away, and he went to Espanyol and had some success there. I think they finished 8th in his season there. So he's a different head coach as well. Gino and Scott Duxbury know a little bit more about the Premier League and what it's going to take. They're all big boys. They're grown-ups. They will have sat down and had the very conversation we're having now. Quique will have explained what he can bring to the table. They will have explained what they want from him. And they've shaken hands, so let's work on the basis that they've both got the assurances they want. I think this is the biggest gamble they've taken in terms of a managerial change. And by getting someone in that they know, and he knows Watford, they're mitigating against that risk a little bit. So I think it's canny. It's a huge job for Quique Sanchez-Flores, really, really big. But I think it's another canny move, hopefully.
As much as the defence is the area that overall needs improving, actually, in terms of converting their chances, Watford have been poor in that sense as well. They've got Arsenal this weekend. They're not going to get away with missing too many opportunities there, are they?
Well, I don't know, when you look at Arsenal's defence, and when you look at this scenario, just frightens me simply because, Watford going through what they're going through, new manager, the guys come back, and then, they're playing against Arsenal. It's the kind of thing where Arsenal, especially with their away record, I wouldn't be able to sit here and categorically say, yes, Arsenal are, with the way that Arsenal played defensively this season, are gonna beat Watford, but they're gonna have to step themselves up, step their game up in respect of how they've been playing defensively. But then it's up to Watford. You talk about the footballing players, if they can get on the ball and cause
Deulofeu, on a day like that against Arsenal, he shows up on the.
If he shows up, then
on those days, doesn't he?
And then you look at it, and it could be aligning for them. It's Arsenal, that kind of team. You play Arsenal when you've just got a new manager. Arsenal roll up away from home. Although Arsenal have won 4.
All supporters think they're that kind of team.
You do think that, but the fact is that it's the kind of thing where they may get that bounce instantly, James.
I think this game has become meaningful for Arsenal over the last few years. Ever since Deeney said, this is a team you can rough up and you can get at.
Yeah.
They're soft. And I think ever since then, Arsenal have won all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that they ring when the fixture list comes out and they go for it. Deeney's not going to be available for this game.
Someone who might be there, of course, is Danny Welbeck. And he's got a lot to prove.
I think that's a very good signing.
Yeah, great signing.
Yeah.
If Watford can keep him fit, he'll be desperate to reinvigorate his career.
Yeah.
There's obviously talent there, and it's a perfect place at Watford. He'll get the opportunities, he'll get game time, he'll get delivery from Deulofeu and from Pereira and Doucouré, so he will get opportunities. What better time to kick-start his career than on Sunday?
What do you think then on Sunday?
Watford 3, Arsenal 0. It's going to be hugely difficult. It's a massive game for Watford. I think Quique Sanchez-Flores will approach it very cautiously. He'll know that we can't concede loads of goals. It's on the television. It's a marquee game. So I think Watford will try and keep it tight. But I'll go for 2-1 win for Watford.
I love the confidence.
Wow.
Mike, thanks so much for coming in to talk to us. We'll hopefully see you again through the rest of the season. Unai Emery is going to be holding his press conference in the next, half an hour or so. We'll bring that to you in Around the Grounds later on. But, of course, Arsenal's confidence is going to be high after salvaging a point against them. No, you're smiling, not beaming, but a little bit satisfied.
Relieved.
But it is just 1 point from the last 2 Premier League games, Spurs and Liverpool.
Yes.
So, what are we thinking about Arsenal at the moment? Let's take Arsenal's temperature.
Well, it's you don't know how to gauge it simply because offensively fantastic, can score goals and will, but defensively and in the transition, I was very surprised with Spurs that they didn't try to go through Arsenal a bit more. They seemed to be very deep and let Arsenal come onto them, and Arsenal seemed to be very susceptible to that counter-attack with the pace of Son. I'm surprised they didn't play Moura. He's somebody that I would have definitely played in that game. But in the end, it was Mati Guendouzi. He was fantastic for us. He was the engine. But other than that, we've got our guys who scored, obviously, Lacazette and Aubameyang. But in the main, the whole thing, it just felt a little bit like, you're waiting for it to get going. It's not going yet.
Aubameyang on the left?
Yeah, I ain't got a problem with that. I don't think Well, I haven't got a problem with it as long as you can get him a midfield player. I was very disappointed not to see Ceballos play. As long as you can get a midfield player that can get on the ball so as he can then make the runs and he can put the ball in there, whether it's Ceballos or whether it's Ozil. But you've got to have someone like that. Otherwise, if you can't get the ball to him, he's not going to be effective at all, is he? He's not getting the service to be effective. If they're not getting the ball into Lacazette for him to hold it long enough, for him to maybe come off the line and link up, same with Pepe. So if you're not getting somebody who can control the game from there, it's going to be difficult for your forwards to get into the game.
Ceballos settling in, I was going to say quickly, 4 games into the season. But, we've seen flashes of what he can do rather than, a consistent start.
Yeah, I think this league is difficult, and I think the first game he was absolutely magnificent. He went to Anfield and barely kicked the ball, and he's a ball player. He needs touches, so didn't really affect the game there. When he came on against Tottenham, I thought he was terrific. I thought he was exceptional. So just put all those guys out on the pitch and let them figure it out. Lacazette up top, Aubameyang, Pepe, Ceballos maybe in behind. Torreira's got to play, I think, Guendouzi. Xhaka, I'm not sure why he consistently starts with all the mistakes that he makes, but I like what Arsenal have. I really believe in. I thought that the second half against Tottenham, I thought they were magnificent. They should have won the game. They really should have. And I think they'll finish 4th, Arsenal. I was speaking to Danny Welbeck. I saw him, and he said, what a brilliant coach Unai Emery is. He said he couldn't believe how talented a coach he was. So I really believe in the talent that they have, the front three that they have. But Wright, right, it goes back to the defence. Can they sort that out? Maybe Tierney comes back. That makes a difference. Bellerin, he comes back.
I think there's too many people you can't rely on. When you watch any Arsenal game, you always think, he's got a mistake in him. And it's usually Xhaka. But look at that burnt Leno, the way he spills that for the first goal.
Even the first half, they played good, didn't they?
Yeah.
That mistake in Xhaka.
And all of a sudden they're in, and that, again, I think, makes you doubt Arsenal.
It's going to be interesting, though, James, when we look at when Oldin's fit now. Is he going to go back to the 3? You know, because is he going to have Holding, David Luiz and Socrates?
Well, we know David Luiz is better in a 3, isn't he?
He's better in a 3, and you're thinking to yourself, in the 4, when you see how he pushes in and tries to win the ball, I think Socrates does the same. They try to win the ball in areas when the midfielder's got good time on the ball, and they're trying to get into areas where you're not going to win that, and you're totally taken out of the game. And that's what happened with their first goal the other day.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
You know, and so those things worry you. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to counteract, whether it's going to be the 3 or the 4, because he's got to find a way to make Arsenal less porous.
But it's also the fact that they're giving away... No side has given away possession close to their goal more than Arsenal this season.
Don't get right inside, okay? He's gonna...
What's that?
See my face, it's pain.
Can you do that again? Because we had a graphic up.
You know something? For me, I know that, you know, especially now that the defenders can go in the area and get the ball even closer to their goal. You know, some of the times I just think, just kick the ball.
Why?
Just
Isn't it right? You're watching and thinking, why?
You're just actually bringing them onto you even closer, so people can push your team in. They can put right pressure in, so the guy's on the ball, he's looking, and then bam, they're in your face. They're right at the goal. It's crazy.
Well, this is the thing, right? If you look generally, number of passes teams are playing is actually down, apart from with teams like Man City, and that's because they don't want the risk. They pump it long, but Arsenal keep playing short, inviting the risk, and concede because of it.
It's hard to watch. Sometimes it's hard to watch.
Pepe, let's talk about the good things then. Because he's completed more dribbles, created more chances, more passes into the box than any other Arsenal player this season. But are we waiting to see his big moment?
Yeah, without a doubt, yeah. I think we've seen flashes, me and Owen, we were talking about it in the green room there, that he does stuff in his own half where he's got players on him and he just gets out of it. It just looks beautiful. And then he gets into the final third and he seems to be a little less as cavalier, whereas I would love to see him be even more cavalier in the latter stages, because he goes past people so easily. And I just still think he's finding his feet, Kels, in respects of what he wants to do. For me, just get on it and just go, just because the fans are desperate for him to just do his thing because they know what he's capable of. And I feel a goal in the game, especially as early as it can be, then we might start seeing the real Pepe. At the moment, I still think it's a bit tentative.
Yeah, he's got something, hasn't he? I mean, technically, he's great to watch. He's quick, he's powerful. Yeah. I really like him as well. But I'm with you. Just that end product, that final thing, which he was brilliant at last season. What did he have? 22 goals, 11 assists last season. His numbers were off the charts. So I think it will come, especially if they play Lacazette, Aubameyang. Big fan of his, but you're right, just that decision-making has let him down.
I think that'll come, though, because ultimately, new club, new league, new teammates that he's got to play with up front, not on the same wavelength yet. And as soon as you come back, you're into an international break, and all that's broken up again.
So as well, James, I'd like to see them play the kind of midfielders that's going to just get the ball in good positions and give it to him, and you know, continuously give it to him. Same with, I'll say, with Aubameyang. You know, you can't do that when you play Xhaka, then you're hoping that someone like Matthew Guendouzi, who had to play deep and try to play forward. When you've got players like Ceballos and Ozil on the bench, you know, you've got to get these players playing to give the front three as much service as they can get.
They're off to Watford, who have a terrible record against top 6 teams. Arsenal, however, have a terrible record away from home. What do you think?
Arsenal are going to beat them because I not
As
only
you always predict that.
because I want that, but it's going to be difficult simply because a new manager's coming. Watford will. I'm sure they've got a couple of defenders missing. I'm not what I was reading the other day, but Arsenal got a front three, depending on who plays in the midfield, that can cause anyone problems. And if they get that going away from home, a Watford side that are still trying to find their feet, they could beat them pretty comfortably.
Joe, it's an Arsenal anniversary today.
No.
Do you know that?
No.
Do you know it's an Ian Wright Arsenal anniversary today?
Is it? What is it?
It's the day you broke the goal-scoring record.
Well, did you see what just now I was getting ready to do something. Seriously?
Just keep your clothes on. But
okay, cool. Yeah, it's a good day, isn't it?
There will be familiar opponents for one Manchester United player this weekend, Harry Maguire. So the travel department in Greater Manchester often put up themed road signs to kind of say the traffic's going to be busy for this. It's, you know, Chelsea came to play, it was like look out for hazards and all this kind of thing last season. This time around is, as Sean Farrelly says on his Twitter account, a brutal sign from Transport for Greater Manchester, if you're a Manchester United fan, which says it's the race for 6th, Man United against Leicester. Is it, though? Is it the race for 6th?
Yes, it is. I think that Leicester will probably... you are going to have an outside bet, I'll probably have them higher than 6 if they can continue to play how they're playing and their players can continue to improve. I think they've, in Brendan Rodgers, they've got a manager that's got massive point to prove in respect of what he's trying to do. He's got a fantastic squad of players. And, he's got a Jamie Vardy that looks like he's still right at the very, very top of it. And my favourite player at the moment, James Maddison, I thought was unlucky not to get some minutes for England the other day. But this is a game where I genuinely think that Leicester will be coming there looking to beat them comfortably.
We'll come on to Leicester and the details as far as their squad is concerned, but for Manchester United, Owen, it's really significant injury news as well, with Pogba and Martial missing for this game against Leicester.
Disaster. It really is, because I think for United, results haven't really gone their way. I thought Chelsea, the way that they played, they were slightly fortunate. Not fortunate, but I thought Chelsea were a little bit unlucky.
Yep.
And I just worry for this United team. I really do. I think Leicester coming to Old Trafford, if they get a win, Leicester, they could easily win with the players missing from Man United. They'll be 6 points clear of Manchester United. That's scary and already. And the thing is as well, they'll go to Old Trafford and probably out-football Manchester United. I think they have, for the first time ever, I'm looking at a Leicester team, they probably have 4 or 5 players that get into Manchester United starting 11. You can't think of that in the last, 4 or 5 years. So I think for Ole Gunnar, it's going to be a tough test because, as Wright said, this Leicester team are very, very good. Jamie Vardy's on fire. Maddison, he's creating goals for fun. Tielemans and Ndidi and Chilwell. I mean,
you look at United have recruited from this summer, and they've signed good players, don't get me wrong, but they've signed players from Swansea, Palace and Leicester. And they're expecting to get back into the Champions League contention?
No, I don't think they are. Do you think they honestly believe they're talent-wise they're a top 4 team?
As Ole says all the time, it's Manchester United.
Well, it says it on the badge, James. But I mean, let's be honest, on the pitch it hasn't.
But I think ultimately, the lift that Ole brought when he came in, and a lot of that was him reminding people about Manchester United's identity. And I think to play expectation management now and say, now we're going to be, maybe it's going to be touch and go whether we get into the Champions League. We're actually competing with Leicester for 6th.
I do believe though with the players he's signed there, we're seeing in Wan-Bissaka. I think that's a great signing.
Good player.
Same with our man who's scoring the goals.
Daniel James.
I think that's another good signing. And then Harry Maguire is someone that's needed. And once they really get settled, I think those 3 are going to be brilliant signings. You know what I mean? We could, because then otherwise you go back and you say things like, when, I don't know, with Mahrez, how great he was, and Kante, how great he was when they came from the Leicester side. They've still gone on to be, for me, world-class players.
But if you look at United now, especially with these injuries that they have, say, Pogba, Martial's out, Shaw's out. There's no depth there. You're relying on Rashford and Martial, which is great. You lost Lukaku, your top scorer. Sanchez is
scored in both games since he's moved to Italy.
And I just worry they don't have the depth of players. And I think Leicester have a pretty strong squad. So I think for United, all of a sudden that recruitment issue is coming back a little bit. Why didn't they go get a number 9? And I just think I worry a little bit because I've never really seen a Leicester team that's probably had a better balanced midfield than a United one, and they probably do. Ndidi, Maddison, some really good players.
Tielemans. I worry as well for Rashford as well.
James, you asked the question about, or made the point about Manchester United's identity, about the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had sort of reminded players of what Manchester United stood for. But you asked the question of Mike when he was with us earlier, is what Watford's identity is. What do you think Manchester United's identity is on the pitch?
Well, I think recruitment-wise, they've gone, right, let's go get some young British players in. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I think James said about expectation. Forget expectation. It's gone. Manchester United evolved from that winning Premier League titles. That's gone. Winning champion. That's gone. They need to forget that for the next year or two. Like Chelsea, they need to look at these young players and figure out if they're good enough to lead the line. I actually feel sorry for Rashford and Martial that they have to lead the line week in and week out. In the teams that I played in, they would have played 25 games
maximum,
and they would have got
And you could pick the games for
7 or 8 goals, and they would have flourished, and they would have grown, and they would have got better. Now all of a sudden the emphasis is on that. Sanchez is gone, Lukaku's gone, and I just don't think Man United should be relying on, as good as they are, I don't think they should be relying on these guys in their early 20s to produce to get Man United back to being a great team. And again, it comes back, where's the sporting director? What's happening with recruitment? I like the guys at the side, I agree with Wrighty, but if you look at the recruitment from Manchester City and Liverpool, they don't miss. They don't miss on any players, and they're probably at least 4 windows away from even bridging that gap, aren't they?
With every year United are out of the Champions League, they can compete with anyone when it comes to wages and fees. If you're not in the Champions League regularly, then the players are going to look at it. You look at the guys they were in for in the summer. Dybala offered to Manchester United. Mandzukic offered to Manchester United. neither of them wanted to go. I mean, that really is a sad state of affairs for United in terms of decline, that these guys look at that club, which says to everyone, we're the biggest club in the world with Real Madrid and Barcelona, and big-name players don't want to go and play for them anymore.
But the brand is without question, one of the greatest in the top five. You've got Barca, Real Madrid, Juventus, Man United, they're in there for sure. But the football product is not what the brand is.
Also, these guys
reflecting.
are playing United on FIFA. And you don't pick United when you play FIFA. You go with Barcelona or Real Madrid or something like that.
Yeah.
These things ultimately matter to young players these days. Ultimately, again, when it comes to playing Champions League football, they see what's happened to Pogba. They see what happened to Di Maria, Lukaku, Sanchez. United's been a black hole for big-name players who are supposed to go there.
And managers.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think when you have 2 or 3 years of that, players like, I want to miss that. I don't want to go near that.
That's why I say I feel for Rashford, because the onus now, he's got a new contract, and good luck to him as well. The potential that he showed when he first hit the scene, he should get that. But for them to give him all that, and then now you haven't got an experienced striker for him to look up to. Like he can, when he plays for England, he's got Harry Kane to look at as somebody to look. He is the main man at Manchester United already. Somebody who's been taken out of his natural position for me, which I think when he hit in the scene, he was a number 9, and he could have really progressed in that position, but now he's doing the left side, and I think it's taken away from his natural instincts to score goals, and now he's the main person that they've put the onus on to get those goals for a club like Man United.
But right, if
I think it's poor from the people upstairs.
Massively, and if you think in terms of Rashford, Martial, really good players, and they are, no question. You looking behind in terms of the midfield balance, it's only Pogba, and then Herrera's gone.
They already don't forget Fred.
Yeah, but look,
everybody else seems to have.
But you know what? I like him. I think he's a decent player in there somewhere. But get him in.
But he's not playing.
No, but that's what I mean. So you're relying on McTominay and Pereira's playing at times. That's not a team that screams, I'm going to create chances for Rashford and Martial. So in terms of recruitment, you look at Man City, they got 3 number 10s. De Bruyne, David Silva, Bernardo Silva. United don't really have any.
And I find it amazing that City were going to sign Sanchez and Fred. And then United come in, react, say, we'll give them more money, we'll pay a bigger fee, and they come in. And both of those players, who City wanted, and you would probably say would have been a success at City, their careers have really suffered.
It would have been interesting
to see. What does that say to you then?
Structure, environment, coaching,
I'd love to have seen Sanchez.
Hierarchy.
I'd love to see how Sanchez, because the way he's playing, he looked like he's got no energy left. I'd love to have seen him in a Manchester City side. So he would have been there instead of Mahrez, who you're looking at now. He looks amazing. I just don't know how Sanchez would have got on there. I think they dodged a bullet for me, Manchester City with Sanchez.
Don't get me wrong. When I watch United, I can find them really exciting to watch on the counter-attack. I think they've got some really good players up front who we've been expecting a lot of for some years. I still look at United, I look at the defence, and I think they can't defend a high ball.
Lindelöf struggled.
When it comes to head for the ball, when it comes to defending corner kicks, be it short or be it into the box, they struggle.
Yeah. And that they need right now, Man United. And when you look at a couple of first instances, when you look at as a forward, you wouldn't be too keen on that, seeing what he's done there.
I don't know. I just think back to the great partnerships Man United have had at the centre-back position. Bruce and Pass, I think, to Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand, different players from each other, complement each other. I like Maguire and I like Lindelof, but they're the same. They're similar players. They're both not really quick. They're both good in possession. See on that goal there against Palace, you got to be like covering. And Rio and Nemanja, they did that. They did that.
They're the only 2 players I've seen go 2-on-2 with people. Just leave them. They just stay 2-on-2 and say, well, if you want to attack us, we'll deal with it. That's what Rio and Vidic were. That's how good they were.
But that's a measuring stick now. And I look at they spent 120 million on Wan-Bissaka and Maguire. Good players. I think they are better than what they had. But still, you look at the defence and they struggled early on in this season. So, and again, it goes back to the balance in midfield. Who's playing holding midfield at times? Pogba's probably playing the deepest he's ever played. And I like McTominay, but again, you shouldn't be trusting a young kid to. He shouldn't. Right now, he shouldn't start for Man United. The same way, as good as Daniel James has been, and he's been their best player, he shouldn't be Man United's best player 4 games in the Premier League season after all that money that they spent. So, I think the club have a lot to answer for, really, that it's in this position because Liverpool and City are so far ahead of them.
Streaks ahead now.
Well, one of the new summer signings, Harry Maguire, is up against his old side today, and it's an important game for Brendan Rodgers to try and stake his side's claim for bigger things this season. So let's hear how he's approaching the game against Man United.
Listen, it's still very early. It's a very good start. You know, the players have got their rewards for a lot of the focus and commitment that they had over the course of the summer, and we knew we wanted to make a good start. So, but it's only 4 games, and like I say, we'll continue to work. We still have a lot to improve on, and that's the nature of this squad. They're very keen to improve and be better. So, and the next chance is to do that on Saturday. We really look forward to the game. It's we're playing against a top-class team that have outstanding players and are playing at home in a great arena. So, but I'm also aware that Leicester haven't won there for 21 years. So we're very keen to go there and put on a good performance that can get us a result. So the players are looking forward to it. The coaching staff, myself, we're all been preparing for it, and we look forward to a really good game.
As much as everybody talks about this young, exciting team that Brendan Rodgers is creating at Leicester.
And then if they're too high, bam, he'll kill them.
I also think
unbelievable.
One of the things that's sometimes
potency.
undervalued about his game is how well he links with players.
Yeah.
Because in between those goals, there's another one which he set up for Tielemans,
Yeah.
where he beats a guy 1v1 on the edge of the box, gets to the byline, squares it.
Yeah.
It's a tap-in for Tielemans. And you saw in that goal as well, before it actually comes to him, combination with Maddison, where Maddison runs over the ball, it comes to Vardy. He's a smart player.
When you look at that Leicester team, there's not many weaknesses in it. I think the only worry, I think, maybe for the season was Maguire. Could they replace him? Who's going to play there? But I think if I look at the whole team, the fullbacks are brilliant. Pereira, he's one of the best, really underrated. Chilwell, Schmeichel in goal, Johnny Evans you can trust. Ndidi in his position is terrific. Tielemans
as well.
Yeah, I mean, they got a really good starting 11, so I think they'll be super confident Leicester going to Old Trafford.
We'll get your predictions at the end of the programme on how you think this one is going to go, but it's time now to turn to the champions. They can't afford a slip-up this weekend in their pursuit of a 3rd consecutive title, and Pep Guardiola has just held his press conference.
Have you got an update maybe on Aymeric Laporte's injury and how long you now expect him to be out, having had his surgery?
Long. 5 months, 6 months.
So not until next year, maybe, before you see him?
Not next year, sure. January, February, yeah.
OK, thank you.
Perhaps some suggestion that John Stones may return this weekend. How is he? Is that likely to
Good.
happen?
He trained good, yeah.
Is he in your thoughts for Saturday?
Yeah. Really impressed. They destroyed the championship last season. They made incredible. They're playing incredible courage. Good build-up. A lot of players inside the wingers. Puk is in a top form, not just this season, all his career, but especially last season and this season as well. Good mentality, team spirit. I saw some behaves that they are all together, almost the same squad than last season. So they deserve it to be here. And of course, I've never been in Norwich, but the people told me how, the atmosphere is incredible and tight, narrow beach. So after international break, always a mystery, the way we're going to react, the way we're going to play.
A mystery how they're going to react after the international break, but Manchester City have been relentless over the past few seasons, so you expect no hiccup there. They've got the first billion-pound squad in the Premier League, and yet, with Aymeric Laporte out for 5 to 6 months, is that the one injury that could cause an issue for Guardiola?
I think he's their best defender by far, one of their best players in respect of the way how technical he is from there. But I think that when you look at their squad and how good their squad is, this is why you mentioned how much their squad costs. It's for these moments, you know what I mean? Of course, you lose someone like Laporte. It's going to be a blow for you. But Manchester City are a team. For me, when you can do without Kevin De Bruyne for 3 months and still end up with 3 trophies, you're doing okay. And I think that they're the kind of team that will be able to, whether it's Fernandinho there, whether he said he'll play Kyle Walker there. You know what I mean? You've got the young guy in the academy. I think it's Garcia. You know, I'll bring him up. You know what I mean? What happens is that it doesn't change the way they play and the way they're going to try and play. But I do believe that in this moment, when you look at the players that are injured, it's a time that Liverpool have to make sure that they are not slipping up. Because if Manchester City are going to slip up, it will probably be in this time with that kind of calibre of player that's out.
What do you think about the fact that he's going to be out for 5? Because there was a lot of chat at the beginning, but might be 6 weeks. We might be able to get him back sooner. But 5 to 6 months, does that almost, in a strange way, help Pep plan. It's not like he's not looking for a stopgap. He's looking for a long-term replacement.
Well, they'll probably go on. I would be surprised if they didn't do some business in January. Outside of Van Dijk, he was the best centre-back in the country last year. So it is a big blow, and they probably didn't have a replacement, especially with Kompany really leaving as well. But if you just look at the team, Cancelo, he's barely played. He's a super player. Mendy has to come back. He's a super player. Rodri, he's 6'4". He's been playing hold midfield. He can drop in there and play. Plus Fernandinho. Gundogan's barely featured, so he can take over that central midfield role. I mean, Man City are super stacked.
They keep the ball. They keep the ball. You know what I mean? It's very difficult. You have to get the ball off of them first.
I do feel like this happens every year. That there's always a problem position where it looks like they're short, and he invents something. You know, I mean,
Zinchenko at left back.
This used to be left back.
Yeah.
And where Delph all of a sudden becomes, and Zinchenko becomes the left back. I think he'll come up with a solution. We already saw it against Brighton. Fernandinho comes in. How much he values the guy who plays in front of the defence as being able to win headers and win second balls. It's practically a centre-back's job, except he likes the guys who can play out from the back. Yeah, and that is one of the things that Laporte was exceptional at.
Yeah, but if you're Liverpool, you do look at the players that's out and you're thinking, gosh, man, you know, we've got to try and make sure that we put pressure on this particular moment for them.
And then if you watch Manchester City win well without them...
Then you start thinking, even without them, they're still winning. You know, it's brilliant. It's finely poised.
And the
brilliant.
thing with Manchester City is, as brilliant as they've been, particularly over the last couple of seasons, and I know we're only a few... I keep saying that. I know we're only a few games into this one, but they're better. Statistically, they are better than they were last time around. They've got more goals, they've got more attempts on target, their shot conversion rate's up, their chances created is up.
Honestly, it's frightening.
You thought they had nowhere to go.
I mean, Pep said he's not sure what he's going to get coming back from an international break. Did he watch Kevin De Bruyne play for Belgium?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my. Honestly, it was like watching... it's an artist, wasn't it? I mean, creating goals. I mean, just... He's the best in the business, but that group of players they've assembled, credit the football club for recruitment. They almost never miss. They've probably missed on 1 in 5 years in Mangala. The rest of them are top players, and even the ones Mendy and Cancelo, they've barely played. So I fear for everyone.
The one that keeps surprising me though is Aguero. It's like Aguero keeps getting better, keeps scoring more goals.
He can't keep Sergio out of the team, can he?
It's unbelievable. And there was a time where it looked like he didn't really have a future at City when he first came in, and instead. Yeah, he seems to be...
Yeah, but James, if you're Aguero and you're looking at that team and the chances that team make on a game basis, you're thinking to yourself, if I keep myself fit, keep him happy, I'm still going to score loads of goals in this team. You know, so he's realised that in himself. And the only thing is that, unfortunately, Jesus...
He's unstoppable at the moment.
Is that just being on a streak? Do you feel that as a striker?
I think that when you look at a couple of those goals, it says to me instantly that he's on a streak because... He's just getting in there and the ball's still bouncing around, it finds its way to him. But it's when he is on the line, like the Liverpool goal and the goal against Chelsea, and it's the way he comes back, gets himself in a position where he can get himself on, so that people like the Campbells, who I really like, he's playing the ball into a position where he knows he can utilise his strength. And one of the second goal, I think it might have been against Chelsea, is the way he came in and came out and then came back in with the ball and curled it in. He's somebody that's obviously got a natural knack for scoring goals.
That's the positive side for Norwich. On the negative side is that the top scorers are taking on the worst defence in the Premier League this weekend. They just ship goals.
Yeah, well, they shipped a ton in the Championship as well, didn't they? And I think the worry for Norwich is it's great playing all this nice football, like we saw at Anfield. They came with a lot of credit there, and it's good that they got the goal that they did. But the defence is really young. You know, I think 3 of the 4 are, 20, 21,
and
22.
They've got injuries there this weekend as
well.
So
I just think if they're going to keep making mistakes, they're going to put a lot of... They're going to have to score a ton of goals. And I just think defensively, they've got to tidy it up somehow.
Yeah, in the way that they've done it, the people upstairs is Norwich, you have to give them a lot of credit.
Unbelievable, right? So you're right.
What they've done, and if they can get through this season with those young players, then next season we're talking about a whole different category of player. For them to get this experience while it's happening, and Norwich are not bothered, for me, about what happens in this season. You can tell that by the signings. They've not gone out and made some unbelievable, crazy signings. They're going to let these players get on with it, see how they go, and then they'll go from there. But the experience that these young players will get at the back will be absolutely unbelievable.
Could be a high-scoring game.
I think it will be.
Even if they might all be on one side. Now, next, we're going to the table toppers, Liverpool. They beat Saturday's opponents, Newcastle, 4-0 at Anfield last season. Jurgen Klopp between these two international breaks because he has cup competitions and he has a couple of tough league matches in there as well.
Yeah, well, again, you know, like you have to say with Liverpool and winning the Champions League last season, magnificent effort from them. But we know that it's the Premier League that Liverpool want more than anything else. And he has got the squad that you can rotate and move around, and the quality will come in. His course is not as deep as Manchester City's, but they have got players that are capable of coming in who can shore up, you know what I mean, and give people the kind of break that they need, like you're talking about the front three. Like, I'm still looking for Naby Keita to hit that form that we know that he could do when he was in Germany.
He's coming back from injury now,
exactly. We know Fabinho's having a great season, what he's doing. So I still believe that now I'm even more so going for Liverpool, simply because they believe they know what they need to do, exactly what they need to do this season to get it over the line.
In terms of his team selection for this game against Newcastle, when you look at what Liverpool have got coming up, they've got League Cup action, they've got Champions League action as well coming up. They've got a few players who they aren't going to be able to draw on, and Keita's one who is just coming back and may or may not be fit for this one. Would it be sensible for Jurgen Klopp to maybe look at this game against Newcastle and think, this is one that I can perhaps use the depth of my squad in?
No, I don't think Jurgen Klopp. No, I don't think Jurgen Klopp thinks like that. I think they've got 7 games in 21 days, so there's a ton of fixtures. So it is difficult, but I think he has a really good squad of players, and I think he will rotate. I think he's shown that in the past. You know, he's committed to rotating, and he's right. There's some good players in there that can come and make the difference. But if the front three, you know, I think they're fortunate that Origi has done so well in the appearances that he's had, because really, there's not a ton of depth behind that front three, is there? You know, like the Manchester City. So. You can rotate in midfield, but up top you can't really rotate as much.
These are the games in that international, in that break in the Premier League games between the 2 international breaks. After Newcastle, they're off to Napoli, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Then it's a League Cup game, Sheffield United away, Salzburg, and then Leicester, who we've already talked up in this programme. And there's tough games in there.
It's a tricky run. They lost in Naples in the group stage last year. Chelsea, I imagine, we'll have Kante and Rudiger back by then, maybe even by this weekend. Salzburg, as you well know, and no mugs. No. Very good team, and we've just been talking up Leicester as well. I do think, in terms of the squad depth that they have got, we saw when they played Newcastle end of last season. It was a tough game, 3-2. They only won it in the 85th minute, but how did they win it? Shaqiri free kick, Origi heading it in. And those guys have become contributors to this team. So I think they can make a difference. I think Klopp has more confidence in his bench than he did, not last season, but certainly the season before last. He feels he can go to it in a way that he couldn't. And you saw that in the transfer window, where they only signed 1 guy. Yeah,
I still feel that I'm so excited to see what he's going to do in these games after winning the Champions League. I know that they're desperate for the Premier League, so I'm looking forward to see who he plays, the kind of calibre of play he plays in those games, because I think it's important for Liverpool to focus on the Champions League, on the Premier League. So I'm looking to see who they play in the Cups, who they're playing, because, you know, for me, because I've gone for Liverpool.
I know.
I don't want them messing around in those competitions. I want them to save themselves. And I'm not saying that Liverpool need to lose games on purpose, but I just do feel that he's going to have an eye on making sure that they're majorly ready for Premier League games.
You mentioned Shaqiri in last season's match between these two, but he's the one who withdrew from Swiss national duty in order to make sure that he was fresh for this run of fixtures for Liverpool. So we'll see what Liverpool do in terms of team selection, whichever the way those words, just throw them all up in the air, see how they land. But for Newcastle, what do they do? Is it similar to last season? Do they just try and stop Liverpool? Is that what that's their tactic,
absolutely,
is it?
Absolutely. You know, people like Almiron, you wanted to.
But it'll be worse received under Steve Bruce than perhaps it was under Rafa Benitez.
maybe so. But at the same time, you know, you just look at them and, you know, we saw what they've done against Spurs, and I thought it's a very tough thing to do, to be that defensive, and you get that on the break. But we're talking about Spurs at White Hart Lane, who can't seem to break teams down, whoever they are. But I think this is different. This is Liverpool. Like I say, Liverpool know what they need to do. Draws ain't good enough for Liverpool. And I don't think that Newcastle have got enough to trouble Liverpool in the way that's going to for 90 minutes keep Liverpool out. I can't see it. You know, Joe Linton looks very big, he looks very capable, but, you know, Almiron needs to do a lot more. He's not scored since he's been here. I'm not sure where their creativity, I don't know where they're going to score from. And plus, I just think that Liverpool's front three will hurt them badly.
I just think everyone remembers those games in the mid-90s, 96, 97, the 4-3s. They both went Liverpool's way.
Yeah.
Like Newcastle haven't won at Anfield since 94, I don't think.
Yes.
And you now look at that squad, they're either going to, in terms of goals, come from a set piece. Rondon was massive for them last year, and he's gone. So can Joelinton do that kind of role for them? And then counter-attack, pace of Atsu. They've signed a really good player, in my opinion.
Well, no, but I do feel there was a little bit of apprehension to them, because I thought that they should have been really going at Arsenal, especially with Arsenal's midfield. Some of the times, like Xhaka was out of position, he was too far forward. One pass would beat them, and you know what I mean. You could really get into the Arsenal back four pretty early, and I didn't think that they recognised it quick enough. And in the end, Arsenal could have won the game. But when you watch Spurs at White Hart Lane, they just seem like they're struggling so much to break teams down. There's no space for people like Son and Moura. I think they started in one of the home games not too long ago, and they just can't break teams down. And that's why I feel like this one's going to be a very tough game for them, because for some reason, like he keeps saying, that something's not quite right. And, you know, I think that's getting through to the players. I think he's saying it too much now.
What is wrong with Spurs? What is the difference? Why do they look flatter than they did at their best last season?
I'm not sure there's that much wrong with them, to be honest with you. I think they've spent a ton of money on some really good players. And Ndombele, I think, has potential to be probably one of the best midfield players in the league. He missed that game against Arsenal. Lo Celso now, he's out injured. He came on. You know, I think that it's going to take a bit of time to get all the boys fit. But when they're fit and healthy, I think the squad is ridiculously good. Son, Kane, Lucas Moura, Eriksen. Now he's playing. He looked good against Arsenal. But defensively, they're strong with Lloris. Get the midfield, get those boys back. And I think Tottenham, they're not, you know, Man City or Liverpool, but the third best team in this country. And I think once they get all the boys firing, I think they'll beat Palace comfortably. I really do. Harry Kane with a couple of goals. But I love the squad of players. They just got to forget all of what happened in the summer. They'll come good, Tottenham.
I think Leicester third best team. I have to disagree with you.
Leicester third best team?
Yeah. At the moment,
wow,
I'm
big shout.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Leicester's third best team.
I think...
we're going to return to that, but we're talking Spurs now.
I just had to get it out. I have to get it out once it's in there.
We've done Leicester. You should have done that in the Leicester chat.
I'm sorry.
No, for the effect, you've had full-on effect there. But I think with Spurs, ultimately, I think they need to freshen things up. And they tried to do that in the transfer market. But we haven't really seen much of those players, apart from Ndombele against Villa. He's been out the side. Now Lo Celso's injured. It's the same team, not only as last year, but for the last few years. And I think, don't underestimate the kind of hangover from losing that Champions League final. I think if you're a Spurs player, you've pushed beyond your limits over and over again. What is success for them?
But I think the comparison with Liverpool's an interesting one here, because they were in the Europa League final and lost that. Went on the next season, Champions League, and the Champions League final, lose the Champions League final, and then come back, win the Champions League, and finish within a point of this extraordinary Manchester City side. Could Spurs not use reaching the Champions League final in a similar way?
Yeah, but I go with what James says, though. I think that it can have the other effect on you. It's like, what more do we need to do? I think that's like, I agree with you in that sense, James, because it's hard.
Yeah, I also think, Kelly, like, that came earlier in Klopp's cycle at Liverpool than it has for Poch. You know, they get to the Europa League final first year, Champions League final second year, then they go back to the Champions League final. Spurs are further along this group of players, and they're already players who are looking like, we've seen with Eriksen. Have I done everything that I can with this team? This is going to be my last opportunity to get a big move elsewhere. Players like Alderweireld as well. You know, everyone was remarking on why he didn't move in the summer when they had that buyout clause, all this kind of speculation, even around the manager towards the end of last season, where he wouldn't completely commit. I think all that has created a little bit of instability, but I think they just feel a little bit stale at the moment, and they really need
I think so.
Ndombele to dribble past players, Lo Celso to pick the pass, but they can't find those players out in the team at the moment.
Is the Eriksen effect gone? Now we know he's staying? Is that kind of, you know, are we going to see him play more regularly? Or?
Well, I mean, there's rumours of like a swap deal in January with Dybala. Would probably suit both, but if Eriksen's running his deal down, and it's essentially what he's doing, there's no way he's going to leave in January, is he? No. Because he wants And he's probably I interviewed him. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet,
Yeah.
and he's been a terrific servant to the football club. But he wants a fresh challenge. You know, he wants to play for Real Madrid or a team like that. And you know what? You can't fault him. But the thing is, they can't afford to lose players of that quality.
Yeah.
You know, because he's the one that creates the goals for Harry Kane. So surprised that such a quiet, humble guy, super player, and Eriksen wants to leave in a fresh challenge. But they've shown, I think, now the commitment with Lo Celso and Ndombele that they will invest. They didn't for a couple of windows. I think now they realise, and Poch knows, spend some money, because I think Tottenham now, they have to win something don't they? Just win something, a cup. Obviously, I don't think they can win the Premier League, but win, you know, FA Cup or something.
You're right there, Owen. I think that Eriksen's come to the conclusion. And if he's come to the conclusion as one of the top players, you know, guys sit together, they speak. So they're speaking amongst each other. When's Harry Kane going to come to that conclusion? You know, Dele Alli.
Because Eriksen's not that type, you know, he's not a money thing.
It's not a money thing. It's just now, when they've tried as hard as they can in their minds, and they've still coming short. And you know, the manager's constantly, he's been linked. Is it Real Madrid or Man United, whatever it is? When they get into a situation, they're getting older, Kells, and now they're thinking, am I going to get a Premier League medal? Am I going to get a Champions League medal? Tottenham are really fighting against it at the moment in respects of how they're going forward and how their players are looking at the club going forward. I think they're in they've got some hard times coming.
Very quick word on Crystal Palace and the challenge that they posed to Tottenham this weekend.
Well, they're playing with confidence at the moment, and Jordan Ayew is the best I've seen him play since he's been in this country. We've seen with Benteke, 4 goals in 51. You know, you have to feel sorry for him as a striker. Gary Lineker was saying to me the other day, he believes that if he played in 51 games now, he'd probably score more than 4 goals. You look at it and you think it's a horrendous record for a striker to have. They need goals. They need a striker who's holding the ball up. They need more than just Wilfried Zaha. Yes, Andros Townsend can kick in every now and then, but they need more. They need to stay on this run. Can they keep scoring goals? Because if they don't, then again, it's going to be difficult for them.
Predictions still to come, but we promised you Quique Sanchez-Flores' first press conference a little bit earlier. It's now here. You can definitely tell all the managers who've been on their holidays over the international break. The weather's not been that good in the UK. Right, let's take a look, Wrighty. We've got your predictions up here. Let's start. You've got a couple of shocks in there.
Yes.
Wolves and Chelsea.
Wolves and Chelsea, yeah. I do feel that that's going to be one, when you look at Wolves at home, and Frank himself said it, they're very good at home, and I think that they'll put Chelsea under the kind of pressure that they might not be able to deal with, simply because the left-back's missing as well, Emerson. It could be a tough time.
And they are better against better teams, aren't they? Manchester United, to be beaten 3-1 at home by Leicester.
Yeah, that's
3-1, that's not just,
Come on, Wright.
nicking a win.
That's one of my bankers.
Third best team in the league.
I'm going, Leicester is. Leicester the third best team in the league.
All the threes. It's the magic number for Leicester.
I'm going with that because I think that it's a game that Leicester will look at the team sheet, whatever it is, and fancy themselves in that game.
3-1, though?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I hope not, but I could easily see it happen. And I think Leicester will go there. I think you take a point if you're Brendan, because they're what, 3 clear of United as it is. But I think with the injuries United have, I think Brendan will want to go there and win.
And Manchester City, you've always got you've got 3-3 between Bournemouth and Everton, but 5 for Manchester City. Yeah, you're not even giving Norwich a goal.
That's a bad day at the office for City. For City at 5-0.
I just feel that it's one of those games that the way Norwich are playing, and with that, the young back fight, it could be a hard day for them. I'm being kind to them.
Pookie hat-trick. Pookie hat-trick. It's coming.
If you think you're going for another 5-3, like England's game in midweek against Kosovo. So look, loads of goals as always in all of them, but of course it gets underway with Liverpool's match against Newcastle. We will see you at the same time next week. Thank you very much to James and to Owen for joining us, but enjoy this new Premier League